Hi, everybody. This is day 1691. 1691 days since Richard was premeditatedly murdered. It was a treasonous murder. Um, it was absolutely a brutal murder. And yeah, it's time. It's more than time. And I'm going to go through some of the mountains of evidence that we've been providing day in and day out about the weaponization of the judicial system, the law enforcement system, and our military against Richard, a whistleblower soldier on Fort Bliss reporting on criminal trafficking. And instead of being protected, he was absolutely targeted and retaliated against, murdered, and of course, the cover up. And the cover up includes um, smearing his good name and retaliating against our family. And any whistleblower, there's also whistleblowers, and our key whistleblower, Judge Roger Rodriguez, that was retaliated against by, you know, absolutely unreliable sources. The suspects in the case retaliated against by the suspects in the case, Leilani Hart and Rosa Maria Valdez Garcia and her family. And it's taken us a long time to investigate, to understand, um, to get all of the evidence, because of the blocking of our open records requests, many of them. But now, there's a new sheriff in town, right? There's a new sheriff in town. His name is President Donald John Trump. And because of that, more and more information is coming out. And we have then mountains and mountains of evidence to share with everyone about the weaponization of our system that we pay for. Remember, this is all taxpayer backed, right? We pay for all of this, and they are using all the tools that we've entrusted to these agencies and institutions in the last 4 years and longer, especially when you look at Trump's cases, President Trump's cases. I want to be very respectful to President Trump because our evidence that we have collected, including the assassination attempts against him, um, eh, because of all the evidence and understanding that we have through these 4 years, um, and longer, we absolutely understand what is going on against President Trump because as we are advocating for justice for our son, what we have clearly seen in the evidence is that the main target was President Trump. And the motive, because they don't want someone they can't control as the chief magistrate, the chief law enforcer, the chief executive, the commander in chief. When you are president, the Constitution gives you those powers. As president, you are the commander in chief of the military. You are the chief magistrate. You are the chief law enforcer. You are the head of the executive branch of government. And so, because of that, yesterday you saw that he went, or was it the day before? The times just all coming together. But he went to the Department of Justice. He went there and he spoke to them, and I think he dropped some major hammers. He even named some names, and I'm sure, because of um, the weaponization of the Department of Justice, and the FBI, right? Because the FBI is under the Department of Justice. Um, he has to address that first and foremost, um, so that he can wield his constitutional given power and authority without without sabotage, without what do you call those on the ships, right? Where they, uh, you know, I'll just call them saboteurs, but a mutiny, right? The mutiny. Um, he has been given a mandate. He was voted into this office with a huge, huge mandate. This is how our government works, and um, and it was clearly a victory. Um, they used everything they could, and this was Veronica Escobar. Okay, everybody needs to understand that it was Veronica Escobar who used over $1 billion and even went in the whole $20 million because she was a co-chair of Kamala Harris's campaign. Used everything that she could, that $1 billion plus um, could buy to beat him uh, in this presidential campaign. And she didn't win. She did not win, thank God, um, because we know for sure that she is absolutely up to no good. Okay, we absolutely know for sure she is not the one that you want holding purse strings for, those that are up to no good. We know for sure. And we also know for sure that the last administration was up to no good. Absolutely up to no good. And that there was clear weaponization against President Trump. Clear. One thing I don't think they understand is that all of the attempts that they have made against President Trump, all of it. I mean, all the audits. Look, all the IRS audits. Can you imagine? I just can't even imagine how much he's gone through. Um, all of the media scrutiny, all of the legal cases. Very, very wrong. And he's pretty sparkling clean. He's pretty sparkling clean. President Trump is, you know, he's a good golfer. He's a good golfer. He's pretty sparkling clean. Out of all of the scrutiny, everything they used against him, all of the lawyers against him, and they tried. And while they were doing that, they created so many other victims. They trampled on so many other people in order to do what they did. And of course, Richard is one of them. And Richard, yes, very, very special because he couldn't be compromised, because a lot of times they just compromise you, right? They just want to compromise you. They entrap you with those, the honeypot plot trap. The honeypot plot, let's bring in young girls, underage girls, and let's do the honeypot plot trap with our soldiers. And they can be bringing in substances that they're not allowed to bring in, and we can party hardy because the Class 6 is right next to the barracks, and no one, they're all, drinking grog in the field with their leadership. Let's drink grog in the field, and poison ourselves, really. That, I mean, that really happened. I'm not making that up. That really happened with the antifreeze that was in the sealet that they were drinking grog out of, and it poisoned um, many of the soldiers. Um, I think about a dozen, about a dozen. Um, so, and then film it all, film it, and then you can easily intimidate them, harass them, threaten them, especially if they were taken by some of these um, uh, temptations with these young girls. And that filmed. That's a disaster for these soldiers. And so it is really so many victims. And that's why President Trump won, because they just trampled, just like on that J6. They absolutely, I was there in front of the Capitol on J6 2021. I was there and I saw what they were doing. I was tear gassed. I saw what everybody was doing that were the targets, which were the veterans, which were the patriots, which were, children in strollers, people in wheelchairs, and they were being targeted. I was being targeted. Um, and why were they tear gassing us? Why were they shooting the rubber bullets? And what were they trying to do? They were trying to get us to trample. They were trying to get us to provoke us to violence. And I was in that group, and it was so amazing. The men that took charge, because it was men that took charge, and two amazing men that took charge, that got us all huddled together down low, working in unison, walking in unison to protect the child in the wheelchair, to protect the in the stroller, and the other person in the wheelchair, to slowly get us out of the tear gas cloud without hurting each other. It was amazing. And very caring people, but the instigators were continuous. They were continuous. And I can tell you that what happened on that day was not properly um, told by the media. Okay, they had a different agenda, and even the narrative that they wanted did not happen. And so they had to go with the lesser narrative because they absolutely wanted to sow total chaos. They wanted people to get hurt. They wanted the trampling. I'm absolutely 100% convinced of that because I saw it with my own eyes. I lived through it. And the people that were there were just so, in the group that I was in, or, hundreds of people around me, they were absolutely incredible. And um, and so that story never got told. And I have never shied away, never, even when they were putting people in prison. I was putting up my live streams. I was um, telling people publicly on social media that I was there. I never shied away. And there was never one call from media to get our story. Never one about the J6, and which I feel like is is indicative of why President Trump now has taking funding away, public funding away from a lot of media and also from universities. Absolutely, from all of the evidence that we have collected, and it's a lot, y'all. It's very robust. It's very robust. Um, I'm absolutely, I can tell you all with 100% confidence that the main target was President Trump, and that many, uh, millions of people were trampled on, so to speak, by the weaponization of our government. And that is why they voted for him, because they had experienced in a small degree what he was experiencing in a very large degree. And in our case, it's a pretty large degree. It's a pretty large, it's pretty big. It's pretty big. But there are so many victims. I guess all levels, right? All levels. All levels. I shouldn't have said small because many people died. And I'm thinking about Glendon Oakley Jr. I'm thinking about Asia Graham. I'm thinking about so many during that period um, that didn't need to be. Didn't need to be. So one of the things that I wanted to talk about are the 15 most severe issues. Let me see if I can bring that up, because I think it's really important for people to realize what they can do when they are funded um, and they betray their oaths and they weaponize the tools that we pay for, that we give them. And I just want to tell you a few of them. There's so many. I wanted to do just like 10, but there's so many that I have 15 here. And this is really in Richard's case and what we've experienced. So, um, and it's it is really reminded me, and what I'm talking about is this eclipse of the moon, right? The eclipse of the moon. Um, it reminded me of timestamps and how important timestamps are. And this whole thing with James Montoya, with Cristina Sanchez, with Rosa Maria Valdez Garcia, with Alexander Gerhard Hofmann wrote, and timestamps in Richard's case, and the tampering and altering and manipulation and jumping through legal hoops to cover for criminal activity, right? The eclipse of the moon reminded me that as hard as they try to manipulate and go through these hoops and try to cover for criminal activity, um, they just can't. They just can't. It's, maybe you could get away with it for a little bit, but you just really can't. And the moon is like the ultimate timestamp, even way more so than the sun. Uh, uh, um, everything. It's just an amazing timestamp, God's timestamp. Of course, eclipses are too, because eclipses are 70 eclipses and they repeat every 18 years, 10, 11 days. And it's just something that is not taught in school. It should be taught in school. Eclipses are very predictable because they repeat every 18, 10, 11 days. The 10, 11 days come from a solar year, 365 days, and then a lunar year, 354 days, 10, 11 days apart. That's why eclipses have this 10, 11 day move through time until they get to 651 651 solar years, and then it all repeats on the very same day. It's really an incredible, if you've never studied it, you should study it because it is really true science of the clock in the sky, of the timestamps in the sky. And it's non-refutable because it happens, right? That eclipse, that moon eclipse, time stamped in the sky. And I was up because of the live stream. And after the live stream, I thought, I'm going to go out back and look at the moon, see the eclipse. And it was so amazing. And I took those pictures. It was so amazing in real life. And it reminded me of the timestamps and that, um, you know, fake timestamps don't work, right? And the whole foundation of the judicial system, the whole foundation of law enforcement, the whole foundation of law itself are timestamps. And of course, the creator of time is God, right? The creator of law is God, and that foundation is time. He made time. And you saw it with this beautiful moon eclipse. That was just, it was, I never normally stay up for them, but that was just absolutely right. The moon was so big in my backyard, right? It was right there for me. Um, and so I just couldn't help but take those pictures, and it was just absolutely amazing seeing it in real time. And timestamps have been really manipulated um, in Richard's case and in the Walmart case, um, and of course in James Montoya's failed installation, of course in Bill Hicks's usurpation. Um, the timestamps have been manipulated. And why do I say that? Just to go back to the moon real quick. Why do I say it is the ultimate timestamp? Well, because it phases, right? It phases. Every day it's a different phase. And it's on a 29 and a half day cycle, right? The phase is 29 and a half days, and then it repeats. So it waxes and wanes for 29 and a half days. And each day is a timestamp, right? And that cycle is 1 month. It is really the true month. So I think even man tampers with God's timestamp because really 1 month is 29 and a half days, right? So really, it really is. That's a month, right? A month. And we should absolutely be going by the moon for the months, in my opinion, because that's what a month is. A month is the 29 and a half days where the moon waxes and wanes. Now, 12 of those, it's just an incredible thing to study, but 12 of those would equal a lunar year. And then it would, after 19 um, solar years, the moon repeats absolutely again in the same height, the same place, the same everything. So 19 years from now, I will see that moon in that same spot. Now, will it be eclipsing? That's another timestamp, right? But the moon itself, the moon that I saw today, which I didn't see the moon today, but I did see it yesterday again. The moon I saw yesterday will return in the same spot, same height, same size, same phase, everything 19 years from now. So that's a timestamp that you are absolutely, dependable. It's trustworthy. And that's how our judicial system has to work. In order for the judicial system to work and be trusted, for people to be in awe of it and trust it, the timestamps have to be accurate. And that's why what Christina Sanchez has done, what James Montoya has done, what the notary public did, what the Secretary of State of Texas did, and what Bill Hicks did, manipulating the timestamps, is so egregious because it is taking the power that we have entrusted to them and they weaponize it to destroy our judicial system. Every time a timestamp is manipulated, it is an assault on our judicial system. When a country's judicial system cannot be trusted and is assaulted constantly, where you cannot depend on it, like you can depend on the moon, then you're not going to have a country left. It's going to be total chaos. Then you're just going to be, your civilization is just going to fall apart. And this is why the crimes are egregious, that we have crime, because our judicial system has been so assaulted by the very people. You have to understand, James Montoya is supposed to be a prosecutor. Bill Hicks was supposed to be a prosecutor. Christina Sanchez, as the county attorney for El Paso, is supposed to be there for the judicial system for the people in her county. The Secretary of State, the clerk, the county clerk in El Paso did it. The notary, right? The notary public, when they do not, absolutely, number one goal should be honoring the timestamps. It is an assault on our judicial system. And so that is why that this is so important, and it is so severe, that's why I'm spending time and time again talking about the timestamps and people understanding timestamps. And I think, yeah, it's maybe our understanding of time and our value of time has not been stressed in our education, so that they could get away with tampering with timestamps. I mean, because this has been going on for a long time. This assault on law, on the judicial system, and misusing their power in order to cover up for criminals. And that's exactly what has happened in President Trump's case, in the Walmart mass shooting case, and in Richard's case. And I did a remark on I can't remember what social media platform, but there was something I was listening to, and I said, look, you cannot understand President Trump and his actions right now, and all of the executive orders, without understanding what happened in El Paso, Texas, what is going on in El Paso, Texas, the criminal trafficking in El Paso, Texas, though the Walmart mass shooting and everything that was happening there. And absolutely, President Trump was the main target of that. And of course, in Richard Halliday's case. Absolutely. And this is why you don't hear the media covering these cases properly, if at all, because they are key to understanding what's going on in Ukraine right now, because don't forget the weapons that were supposed to, said lie, they lied to us that were going to Ukraine. More than half were sold then to the Mexican cartel right over the border of El Paso to fight to keep this criminal trafficking network going. And now I hear reports that in Mexico they found a mass grave. My grandfather was buried in a mass grave. I've mentioned that before. My grandfather was buried in a mass grave, and in Russia. And my parents, when they were working in the embassy there, and when the Iron Curtain came down and they were working in the American embassy in Moscow, Russia, they were given permission to finally go. This is way after 50 years. After my mother was a baby when she lost her father, go and visit the mass grave that she had a letter saying that was given to my grandmother where my grandfather was buried. And she went to the closed city. You had to get special permission even after the Iron Curtain came down to go into that city, and they were very, very fortunate to get that permission and go and visit the mass grave. And it's super emotional, really emotional. And to hear that now they're uncovering mass graves in Mexico where the cartel have disrespected the remains of so many people. We don't even do that to our criminals because the human body needs to be respected. Even if, while that person was alive, they didn't respect their own body. We have a special day for that in it's a timestamp in our calendar of worship in Christianity, the Corpus Christi, that we, and I even like Ash Wednesday, I think is another day where we think about our bodies. And we're supposed to value our bodies, take care of our bodies, and not disrespect them, like these mass graves. So let's do this countdown of the 15. And I did want to mention this whole Rosa Maria Valdez Garcia before I do that. More and more evidence is coming out, which is very shocking because it's her family at 3905 Bliss Avenue. Bliss Avenue, many different addresses on Bliss Avenue, where Danae Katzen is connected and Belen Rocha is connected. And we were targeted. And this is connected to Mario Raskin Ortiz. This is connected to KTSM, workers at KTSM, David Candelera. So this is really very, very serious because this connects Richard's case to the Walmart mass shooting. And to find out about Casitas Hoffman being part of this migrant process and more, there's more to it, is really and connecting. We do have the death certificate of Alexander Gerhard Hofmann wrote, um, and it's, you know, there's something very, very wrong, and it has to do with timestamps. The timestamps. It always goes back to the timestamps. And so to know how he lost his life, do we? Why? What were the motives? We absolutely know that evidence um, about Patrick Crucius, about Patsy, right? That he was very, very clean when he left. He didn't even have sweat marks. He was very clean. There was, they didn't even bag his hands. He was so clean. And he surrendered twice. Um, that's on audio. And, so we know that there are so many discrepancies. We know that he's autistic. We know, so many things that the Michael Mayella, that his brother's married to, the judge's manager's daughter. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. It's like, wow, wow. And then the brother is working in the DA's office. The brother's working for Walmart security. The brother's working in the FBI. The brother was working in the same office with James Montoya, right? Who's willing to tamper with timestamps, right? So you have just this pattern willing to tamper with timestamps. And then you have the death of one of the victims and a problem with timestamps and connected to this whole migrant thing that was the motive uh, to try to stop President Trump, because he wanted to stop the border migrant business. And for Rosa Maria Valdez Garcia to go back over to go to Mexico and to be in the newspaper, and I need to put it up. I don't know if I have yet, but there's an article where she's calling for a boycott of the United States and really bad talking President Trump. When here she has a motive, and where she is now um, all kinds of anomalies on her own paperwork, right? Her own paperwork, in order for the very country that she is calling a boycott on. Let's boycott the United States, that Mexico should boycott the United States. She's, attempting to get, and she did, about $100,000 in victims funds. When her paperwork is not up to par, y'all. It's not up to par. And that divorce happened in 2001. Well, the shooting was in 2019. And it was a vicious divorce, y'all. A vicious divorce. And yeah. So I think that is, to know the tie between Danae and then Rosa Maria's family having in possession Richard's financials, uh, his credit cards. I think that this is, it just shows that all the pieces, all the evidence, no matter how hard they try to manipulate, the truth reveals itself. And you can absolutely see their motive to attack President Trump and they would attack President Trump no matter how many other people had to die or be trampled on in order to do it. And so it's a huge international case, and it absolutely involves President Trump, and even the attempts on his life. Um, Richard's case is absolutely connected to that. I'm not making things up. This is just evidence. This is uh, this group, their connections, their phone numbers, their addresses, their job affiliations, all of that is all documented, and we have turned those in. Phone numbers, remember the phone numbers. Um, that's, doesn't get said enough. And it's kind of like this whole Nadal Bayim being connected to the FBI, being connected to Richard's command, being connected to businesses, being connected to then the suspects in the murder of Richard. So it's all connected, and we have been very patient going through this. We didn't jump the gun. We're not shooting from the hip. We are absolutely collecting we're investigating, collecting, documenting the evidence, filing the evidence. So Rosa Maria Valdez Garcia and her unreliable attack on the key whistleblower in Richard's case absolutely makes sense now, because her family's in possession of Richard's credit card. She which red flags. How many red flags do you need to go up on that one? And so any witness that came forward, any um, there was an attempt to uh, retaliate well, there was an attempt. There was the retaliation against witnesses, and also um, um, tampering and altering evidence. And so this is clear that she has a pattern of this, along with Leilani Hart, and they absolutely are connected. And there's this connection because there are those common denominators of the Mormon faith, right? The Mormon faith, and the cartel connections, the illegal activity connections, the criminal record connections. I mean, Leilani Hart, Rosa Maria, I think it's the same cookie cutter there, who they're working for and who they're with, and all of that. Um, and they're just very, very similar. Yeah. And then this whole thing with the VA, with having this connection with the really unqualified, or it needs to be vetted, right? Um, this unbelievable amount. There's so many 100% disabled veterans in this group. There's just so many. Wow. Um, so this is really important to understand, especially since James Hart was working in IDS Pueblo, and was very connected to Todd Howell, that was then the CID that took over Richard's file. It's just, it's none of it's a mistake. It's all using what we have given them, their positions, the tools that we have given them, and we pay them. And they weaponized it against us, absolutely, to protect criminal activity. And I think bank accounts would absolutely show. And you should have seen their faces when I said, "Well, did you audit their bank accounts?" You should have seen their faces, because they know that that would really reveal everything. Follow the money, right? So let's do these 15 most severe issues. And who am I to know exactly how severe they are? I think like a judge would know better, right? Or someone that knows the law really, really well. Um, but I can tell you that the tampering with the military and the CID investigations is let's call that number 15. I don't know if that's would be number 1 or number 15. Anyway, let's call it number 1, I guess. Let's go down. So tampering with military and CID investigations, they absolutely did. They tampered with Judge Roger Rodriguez's whistleblower report. They tampered with timestamps. They tampered with the retaliation that was against Richard. They wiped it. You know, um, just tampering. Um, all up and down. Also with Nadal Baim, just so many things that they tampered with. Also, the cover up of the fact that Richard's a whistleblower, right? They tampered with that cover up of criminal trafficking on Fort Bliss. So that's what that is, the whistleblowing. So I'm getting ahead of myself, but they absolutely covered up what Richard was whistleblowing, and they couldn't totally cover it up because the truth came out, right? The truth came out with CID, the truth came out with Boleyn, the truth came out with General Stewart, the truth came out, um, over and over again. So, with other soldiers, yeah, there's so many witness statements that we have that uh, um, confirm that there was um, criminal trafficking on Fort Bliss. Hundreds of thousands of children through the intake center, and they're missing. They're missing, and mostly dead. So I'm sure that the intelligence community has even more evidence on that. Failure to properly investigate Richard Halliday's death, of course. And we have information that it wasn't until the 2nd of September that they officially kind of labeled him. They tried to label him AWOL. Remember when we called, they tried to label him deserter, right? They had to do AWOL first and then deserter, but that didn't happen until we called, right? And we also have information that his unit was marking him present when he was absent, and that got covered up. So, yeah, there's just a lot of cover up going on there, and not investigating his death. Um, Borstar's discovery of human remains. So they tried to cover that up, but that came out, um, and you know more and more information because of the autopsy numbers and people looking into those and stuff like that. Um it's so heartbreaking, y'all. It's so heartbreaking. So the delayed missing persons report, so it was, way a month later, right? Way over a month later, where they're putting out then the missing persons. It was November 27th, I believe it was, Thanksgiving Day, where they designated Richard the first missing Vanessa Guillen soldier, right? The Vanessa Guillen soldier. Uh, yeah, that was, I think that was we were grateful at the time, but I think they already, well, we know they already had Richard's remains because we already had been told by Nadal Baim, and saw the video of it, and heard the most authentic witness statement of everything, and that was the Dollar General cashier. That was face to face. I was 2 feet away from her, and she absolutely was totally authentic. and the other people in the store. So and they lied to us saying, "Oh, he's nobody," That was just that very severe issue. Suppression of the whistleblower allegations. Um, yeah, so that is not just Richard's, but also Judge Roger Rodriguez's the suppressing of his whistleblower allegations, where he identified the prime suspects in the case and the tampering and everything like that. They really, really suppressed it, and then they also retaliated against him. And you know, it was so ridiculous, when you look at it was so ridiculous. And who are the two people that they use? Rosa Maria Valdez Garcia and Leilani Hart, right? The two suspects in the case. It's just, and Bob Moore, Bob Moore, gosh, he's so disgraced. He is the low of the low of the low. And who does he work for? El Paso Community Foundation, right? Who was handling the victims' funds that were being investigated for, you know, where, how were they distributed? Why would Rosa Maria Valdez Garcia get like 100,000 and like the little baby that lost the parents wouldn't get anything? I mean, that needs to be investigated, right? So, the whole thing, reveals itself. Um, Tampering records, recordings, and false witness testimony. Absolutely. Oh my gosh. And then, um, that's many, many. But I would say Rosa Maria Valdez Garcia and um, Leilani Hart, right? Misuse, and then the other thing, and I hope that the suppression of whistleblower allegations. Um, I don't know if Leilani Hart's confession fits into that description, because I think that's a huge severity that was kept from the public, because she really confessed to the worst type of crimes, right, that are involved in all of this criminal trafficking. Um, Obstruction of independent investigations. Absolutely. The FBI was supposed to, um, and Marlon Soto, because of Tavita Nusa being named as tampering with Richard's case, and he was a CID agent. He's no longer, he lost his badge, but they needed to call for an independent investigation, and that wasn't done. And so, and then the FBI, Nieto, Jesus Eddie Nieto Jr., leaked um, Judge Rodriguez's report and his name to the very suspects, Leilani Hart and Tavita Nusa, that he had identified in suspects in Richard's murder case. So, that was so horrible. Um, Misuse of authority by military leadership. Oh, gosh. Over and over and over again. Don't forget that Sean Bernabe was looking for Richard's partial remains in the mock Afghanistan village at Christmas of 2020, and we got confirmation. He even admitted to it. There was all kinds of things going on behind our back that they have kept from us, which is a disgrace. But also, don't forget everything else before then. Everything, the misuse of authority and military leadership, um, all the retaliation against Richard, all the cover up, the not calling us, the attacks against us, the lying to our faces, um, the unofficial Task Force 5, Richard Halliday, the fraud, waste, and abuse of all of that. Oh my gosh. These people are so, so criminal, and they need to be held accountable. So many. So many. Let's not forget about David Park's letter to me. You know, when I called them, uh, Michael Ruggiero not even being willing to speak with us. Uh, First Lieutenant Micah Brown and his whole, oh my gosh, that guy is so bad. They're just by their by their responses and how they were, you could just tell that something really awful they were covering up. And of course, we have the seal on the door of the arms room, which we believe is the crime scene um, of the murder of our son. Obstruction of independent um, investigations, cartel infiltration in key institutions. Oh gosh, yeah. Cartel, you have Jonathan Ambrose being married to Danae Katzen, being part of Rosa Maria Valdez Garcia, being part of Mario Raskin Ortiz, the chief medical examiner, and all of them connected to cartel. Mishandling, and you just see all they're covering up, and I would even uh, say I suspect John Kelly, because he went and worked for uh, the Chihuahua governor's office during that time, and he's all about um, housing unaccompanied children, taken children. They make it sound pretty, but it's taken children, which is so criminal. So criminal. What is it? It's just human trafficking. Um, so yeah, that there's no doubt about that. And with the ISDs and yeah, there's total connection with the cartel. Mishandling of physical evidence, and they kept telling me it's not the cartel, it's not the cartel, and I'm like, yeah, right, yeah, right. I'm, I was born at White Sands. I went to school at Bassett. uh, yeah, I absolutely knew that cartel was involved in this somehow, some way. Um, you don't want to say it, especially when the whole judicial system and law enforcement system is retaliating against this whole case. You have to be very careful, but the evidence is so strong now, so hard, such hard evidence that I can say it with 100% surety. Mishandling of physical evidence, 100%. That includes our son's remains. Um, Manipulation. There's more, like his phone and his journal and all of that. There's just so there. His laptop and everything. His game system that we never got back, and anyway. Um, Manipulation of surveillance footage. Well, we know that for sure. And the one behind that one is the director of emergency services, who said Richard was good food for the coyotes, right? That was Thomas Kane. So manipulation of surveillance footage is right there with him, and also he gave the passes for the young girls to be brought on during the lockdown. Um, Judicial interference and legal obstruction. Oh gosh, you know, I mean that we have hard evidence over and over and over of that. Failure and Penny Hamilton. You can't even call her part of that because she was never really anything but a masquerading judge. She was never a judge. She just masqueraded, and her seal on the case is illegal. There's no authority behind her to even make that real. So it's what's going on behind the scene is just incredible. And so don't lose hope. Do not lose hope. Failure to hold perpetrators accountable. We hope that, I heard today that um, Dan Bongino was joining Cash Patel that now in the FBI. That is, so the team is coming together, and I'm patient for a while. We're patient for a while, right? And we haven't lost hope. Public statement, and then things have been happening, right? Things happened today um, that show that President Trump means real business. He means real business, and labeling the Sinaloa cartel as a big T, and the 29 um, cartel members that were singing real pretty about the narco politicians. This is what because the narco politicians have so much power, right? And they do it with our money, with our money. And then they abuse the tools that we give them and the power that we give them. And then the last one, public statements of media manipulation. Absolutely. They absolutely have misled the media, have misled the public about the Walmart case, about President Trump's case, about cases, and about Richard's cases also, because don't forget he has this whistleblowing case, and we have information that the FBI absolutely was knowing Richard was in on this case way before he even died. So, um, yeah, it's huge. They really don't report properly, and we saw that with when you try to trust um, media, it's very difficult. Um, because they will betray you real quick. And I think it's because the cartel have billions, right? The cartel have billions, and so it's like this Faustian problem where people are willing to sell their soul out to the devil. Boy, I tell you, it's very sad. So thank you everyone for coming on. Those are I hope well, I have so much more to tell you, but that is really a great place to um, understand the mountains and mountains of evidence, hard evidence that we have, and the timestamps, manipulating them and altering and all of that is really important to understand. Thank you so much. And one last thing, Leilani Hart needs to be arrested ASAP. There is no delay on that one. They have everything they need. FBI Morales, he has everything he needs to arrest her now, right now.